over the last couple of days, I've been watching the weather very, very carefully because I'm sure a lot of you are seeing it on the Weather Channel or your local news channels. But we've had a tremendous amount of flooding. I'm going to go ahead and just stop this real quick. I'll bring it back a little bit. I don't know if a lot of you are watching the weather and what's happening. I've explained a little bit about it, but I've been watching it very, very carefully, constantly, because some of these situations are really, really getting out of hand. Hold on one second. Let me turn my phone off. And there's been a tremendous amount of flooding right here in this section. All the way up into Ottawa, Toronto, and I think also Ontario, Canada. All of the snow is melting. The rivers are flooding. On top of that, we're having heavy downpours of rain. I'm right here in the Pittsburgh area, right where you see my cursor. And we have already accumulated 7 inches of rain just over the course of the last couple of days. All of our rivers are flooding. We have landslides. We've had 16 landslides, I believe, in the greater Pittsburgh area in the course of the last 5 days. A few houses have been completely wiped out. This is just a pretty scary situation, folks. I'm sure you all realize that. There's been a lot of flooding in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. I believe it was yesterday or the day before, a rock the size of a large house crumbled and fell onto a roadway. And it didn't break apart. It stayed in one piece. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it was the size of a house. And it destroyed the road. So, you know, situations with this weather, they're getting pretty bleak. I thought maybe we would get a little break, but we're not. It's actually going to stay this way for, I don't know, as it looks right now, the next 5 to 7 days, and possibly 10 days. One of the big threats that's coming up is the air temperatures right through here. If you follow my cursor, I'm going to go ahead and back this out a little bit here, but right through this area right here, this is like kind of, you know, tornado alley, but they usually don't have these big threats of tornadoes in Oklahoma and the surrounding states. But they're saying, meteorologists are saying that these two fronts that will collide right here will have the energy to produce catastrophic tornadoes. And, you know, most of us know what happens in this area of the United States, the Great Plains, with these tornadoes. They can literally just wipe out a town. We've seen it happen before. So there's a lot that we're going to have to pay very, very close attention to. I just want to keep on reiterating, folks. Pay very close attention to your weather. It's going to be critical. I'm going to go ahead and show you a few things and why this is actually happening. We're going to look at these temperatures. If you look right here, this is on the eastern side of Greenland, between Greenland and Scandinavia and the UK. I mentioned this the other day when I was talking a little bit about this weather. These temperatures that you see here in the green, and then it kind of goes up to a mint green right up here. Folks, these temperatures are very, very, very warm. 40 degrees, 45, 40, 35, 30. They're very, very warm. I mean, they're above freezing. If you look right here where my cursor is, you could already see that stratospheric split that occurred. Now, I'm going to show you something else. This is what the meteorologists and climatologists are very, very worried about. And this huge red anomaly right here. It's a very, very high temperature. They were talking about it on the news today. They were talking about it on the Weather Channel. And it's going to create some serious problems. They were talking about how high the temperatures are in the North Pole. They're extreme. That's the word that they used. Extreme. We're going to take a look at some precipitation here. You can see this massive amount of precipitation out here. We were actually able to see this storm system on the other weather model. You saw it moving across. This is actually going to move across and get into southern Spain, Portugal, and France. It's going to come in as rain. And as it goes through those countries, it's going to produce snow. And it's going to wrap up backwards, just like this. And it is going to pound the living hell out of the UK, Scotland, and Ireland. So give it a couple of days. I know that the BBC and some of the international weather channels are warning these people about what is going to happen. I mean, I've seen the reports, so I hope people are paying attention to them, because these weather systems, these weather conditions, they have the ability to catch you off guard. And, you know, folks, look, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat shit and call it candy. People are losing their lives. They're getting caught up in these surprise weather systems. They're unprepared. They're making bad decisions. And they're becoming a statistic. So, you know, you have to be pretty careful with what's happening right now. Looking at our jet streams, if you pay very close attention to where my cursor is and this part of the jet stream right here, well, this is what is creating the problem for the United States right now. As you can see, it's bringing in very, very warm air. It's cutting straight across. You have all of the cold air moving down from the stratospheric split that occurred up here in the North Pole. They're pushing together. They're converging. And where do you see the convergence? Right over Tornado Alley. And that is what's going to be bringing the, you know, the warm temperature straight up into the northeast. Cold air from the north moving downward. Folks, it's just a recipe for disaster. You know, we never have the jet stream sunk this low at this time of year, ever. Ever. You know, turn on your Weather Channel. You know, the Weather Channel, if you're here in the United States, you all know what the Weather Channel is. They've had some pretty good non-stop coverage and commentary about what is happening. I've been listening to it for the last 48 hours. And they're not being too tight-lipped about what is happening. I don't know how to put this, but, you know, they are actually giving out some correct information. And other news stations reporting on weather are completely baffled. So I'm kind of trusting what they're saying at the Weather Channel and doing my own research and putting it together. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing. But as you can see, this big blue area right here, I mean, this is the 40-degree temperatures that is making its way very, very quickly, and it has been for the last 2 weeks, moving straight up into the Arctic. That's not normal, folks. It's just not normal. I truly believe our planet is wobbling severely and at the same time tilting a little bit more than that 23.5 degrees. Folks, it doesn't take much. 1 degree, you know, 1.25, 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees. That is enough to upset the jet streams in both the northern and southern hemisphere. On top of the heating of our ionosphere, all of the cosmic energy coming from the sun. We got some big issues coming up. And I think this upcoming spring is not going to be a spring of jolly good time. I think we're going to see some pretty horrendous weather upcoming. We can go ahead and switch the ball around here and we can take a look. And you can see what's happening right here. This part of the jet stream has broken off. And look where it's at. I mean, it's right over northern Africa. And, yeah. I don't know if any of you heard what happened in Saudi Arabia, maybe 24 to 48 hours ago. Absolutely inundated with baseball-sized hail. It actually killed some animals. They were just pelted to death. Cars destroyed, buildings destroyed. Very, very crazy situation. I think it's the second time this month that that's happened. And I'm sure you've all heard of the reports about people sled riding in the Sahara Desert. Yeah, that's right. You heard that. People were sled riding in the Sahara Desert. And then you have these ridiculous fools out there that try to debunk you and tell all of you that, oh, don't worry. There's nothing wrong. Everything is normal. You know, I swear sometimes these people that run their mouth like that, you know, I don't understand what they really think they're going to benefit by trying to lie to people that are, well, quite intelligent. Because all of you that follow Planet X News, I read your emails, I read your comments. We all get to know each other, you know, on a social media basis. I could see that you folks aren't dummies. You're pretty intelligent. And these troll babies, well, they insult our intelligence by even making the comment or the statement that, oh, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Well, folks, you know, a lot of us beg to differ. You can see these extreme jet streams. I'm going to kind of move back here a little bit. Go to the Antarctica. And you can see the jet stream's kind of weak. And this model doesn't give us a full animated rundown of the jet streams. I'd have to actually go to the Null School model and show that to you. I'm going to move back to some temperatures here. And you can see where all that warm air is moving straight up here between Greenland and Scandinavia, UK, upper northern Atlantic. And there, right there, is the workings of the stratospheric split that they've been talking about for 2 weeks now. And it is pushing a huge swath of cold air down into Europe, Siberia, Russia, Canada, or excuse me, China. And it's pushing down into different countries in Eastern Europe and Western Europe. So they're going to be in for a pretty good blast of cold weather. I don't know for how long. They were saying, some were saying anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Some were saying 14 days, 10 to 14 days. So that should be pretty interesting to see what comes up. I'm going to switch over real quick here back to the, I'm going to use this 3D model. And I want to take a look at some temperatures here real quick. And we're going to get a look at the top of the Earth, where the stratospheric split occurred. Now, it occurred right through here. You can see where all these temperatures have moved up. I don't think, can we get a temperature reading on this? No, you can't get it with this model. Why can't I get out of there? Okay, I'm going to exit out of this model. We're going to go into that null school real quick. Now this is actually in real time, so you can see this is at the jet stream level. You can see this is going right across the United States. This is where all of the damage is coming from, right here. And this is looking directly down onto the North Pole. And you can take a look. You can see it for yourself. It is completely 100% totally out of control. And this is the jet streams in the northern hemisphere. You can see what's occurring here in northern Africa, stretching right across southern Europe, Spain, southern France, Italy, moving directly across through Eastern Europe. And here's what's going to be wreaking havoc right there on the UK. It's going to be a trying time for a lot of people on this planet, weather related. This is what's occurring in the southern hemisphere around the Antarctic region. The jet stream in the southern hemisphere around the Antarctica, Antarctica, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. You know, there's not a lot of civilization, as we can say, in this area, except for southern Australia and New Zealand. And they've had their issues already in New Zealand with some pretty wicked weather. But everything in the northern hemisphere, totally out of control. Totally out of control. So folks, I would definitely keep up on your weather, you know, no matter where you live. I would definitely keep up on it. No doubt about it. Matter of fact, let's actually pull up the Weather Channel. And let's see what they're doing. Now this is the intense nor'easter. The intense nor'easter storm that they're talking about that's developing, and we saw it on the radar. Let's just take a listen to their report real quick.
Fructis Treats 1-minute hair masks. The new way to nourish hair.
Oh, we have to wait for the fruity shampoo commercial to end. Then we'll get right into this report.
Here are
remember this from back at the end of January? This was Ogunquit Beach in Maine. We had a lot of places across New England that dealt with coastal flooding. Certainly these scenes from Boston may jog your memory. The reason we're bringing this back up to you is because we are looking at a system to develop later on in the week south of New England. So there's still a lot of details that are up in the air, but we know that this is going to be a powerful ocean storm. But the track and the strength and how close it stays to the shoreline, we're still watching very, very closely. So we could be talking about this period of rain that changes over to accumulating snow, and then also we're very concerned about the high tide levels, and certainly coastal flooding will remain a concern. Gale force winds also a possibility, in particular as we go from Thursday over into Friday. So any of you who have marine interest, boaters, definitely want to pay attention to that. We know that boating is big business up in this part of the country. So stay with us for more details to come.
You know, folks, I was listening to this report earlier, and you know, it's kind of changing from hour by hour, but I've been listening to what's going on for the last 48 hours. I mean, religiously, nonstop, paying very, very close attention to this because, like I said, you know, here in the Pittsburgh area, we have a lot of rivers. We actually have 3 main rivers, and 2 of them flow directly into the Ohio River. And right now, the Ohio River is the river that is causing problems for states south of me. That Ohio River flows through many states into the Mississippi River. So with the influx of all of the other rivers and some very large main rivers, you know, probably the Mississippi is going to be bursting at its banks very, very soon. And once again, you know, we're going to have a lot of flooding in those regions. Let's see what else they had to say about this. Let me go back to their main page real quick. Now, this is the area I was just talking about right through here.
No te pierdas este evento.
Oh, now they got Spanish commercials on the Weather Channel. Cool. Oops, I didn't want to click on the ad. What the hell?
But very slow to recede. This is what places like Camden, Arkansas still look like. And I'll tell you, this drone footage, one image is more heartbreaking than the next. Anybody who's dealt with water damage will agree. Now, we've certainly got a lot of concerns as we get this next big wave of rain that comes through. And I want to show you this map, which shows where we have the flood watches up posted and also the river flood warnings at big bullseye, same places that just recently got hit. And telling you that it's been wet is one thing, but trying to spell it out for you like this is...
I'm going to stop that for just 1 second, folks. Look at these rain totals. Nashville, Tennessee, 11.5 inches. Their average is 7.4. Little Rock, Arkansas, almost 13 inches. Their average, just about 7. Memphis, Tennessee, almost 14 inches. Their average, 8. And like I said, right up here in the Pittsburgh area, we've accumulated in a very, very short time 7 inches of rain. We should only be at about 2.5 to 3. So it seems pretty much that everybody that is involved, all of the states involved in these weather systems that are just pounding the same areas, it seems that we're all double our actual rainfall totals. And it's probably going, you know, it might even triple. There's a lot of weather still to come over the next couple of days. But let's finish listening to what they have to say.
is another. So the average amount of rainfall that we've seen in a typical year is denoted in the green shade, and the blue shade is what we've actually seen. And in all three of these examples, this is a very small sampling, but in all three of these examples, you can see where it is much, much higher than the typical average. So we've got this other round of rain as we go from Tuesday over into Wednesday, getting a little bit of a break once we get past Thursday going into Friday. But in between now and the end of the week, the flood threat remains extremely high. Several of those same hard-hit spots expected to see 3 to 5 inches, and locally 5 inches or more cannot be ruled out.
Wow, look at that. You know, this is all of these reports were just coming in, you know, within the hour. And, you know, once again, folks, you can see all the way from Houston, Texas, all the way up through Little Rock, the whole entire state of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, my goodness, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We might have a little mix of some snow, but it's not going to be anything major because the temperatures here have been in the high 50s and 60s. And, you know, sorry to laugh about it, but, you know, one day last week, we hit 80 degrees, man. We hit 80 degrees in the Pittsburgh metropolitan area on the 3rd week of February. Yeah. Climate chaos? You bet your balls, man. Absolutely. Global warming? I'm not buying that. Modified weather? I'm not buying that either right now with everything that we're seeing here, folks, because the way these jet stream patterns have been sinking, and I've been watching it for months and months, and the way they keep sinking further down, lower and lower and lower. If you really want to learn about these jet streams, do some research on jet stream patterns and what affects them. And, you know, bring yourself up to speed on what these jet streams are. They create all of our weather, and they're just not normal. They are abnormal, extremely abnormal. And on top of that, you know, we're having, again, you know, issues coming from the sun. Very large coronal holes facing the Earth. We had a small coronal mass ejection less than 48 hours ago. And, you know, all of that energy coming from the sun, it's pounding on our magnetosphere. I was just, you know, looking at that earlier and researching a lot of data that was coming in. And matter of fact, I'll show you real quick at some of the things that I captured. And let's just go ahead and pull them up. This was just on the magnetopause, and this was for the 26th. And I was kind of going back a little bit from where we are today, and you can see the bow shock right here, extremely extended, and there was a tremendous amount of energy coming from the sun. It was impacting our planet, and if you take a look back here, I mean, this is not even normal to have this type of energy behind the Earth, on the dark side, not facing the sun. So that is pretty much abnormal. Here was one clip that I took from the solar wind. And again, I've never seen this type of anomaly dealing with the solar wind. And what I'm referring to is all of this low pressure that you see in the light blue. And this crazy looking anomaly in the middle. I've never ever seen this before. Never. I couldn't even tell you, like, what is actually happening here. Just not normal. And then I was paying very close attention to the magnetosphere, and I was running through some of the models, and all of a sudden I thought to myself, what did I just see? So I backed it up a little bit, and I went frame by frame, and I saw this massive, what I refer to as just a bubble, but this is all direct energy coming from the sun. You can see the really extreme energy right here that's in red. Your color code is right off to the lower right here. We should always be in this green or lime green color, but I've never seen this type of a bubble form right in front of our magnetosphere and on the daytime side of the Earth. And again, I went through this frame by frame, and this was at the point where solar wind was impacting our magnetosphere pretty heavily. And it lasted for quite a while. And this little dome that formed, it was there for quite a while also. But when you run it, when you run it out in the normal speed, it seems like it's there for a few frames and then gone. But when you slow it down, kind of in the real time, because here's your time stamps and date stamps up here. And you can slow it down. And then as I went frame by frame back here behind the Earth on the nighttime side, there was just a whole array of anomalies that were occurring back here behind the Earth. So once again, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do to stop any of this from happening, but it is happening. We'll deal with it. We have to live it. Now, this is another report that just came in right here. This is talking about this huge low pressure that is forming and will impact California. And this is going to be a doozy here. Let me just, they're going to show a commercial here, so just bear with me. I'm glad they came up with this because they were waiting to update on this system that is coming in out of the Pacific, wrapping around, and it will impact, Northern California, and I believe they were talking about it sinking down as far as Los Angeles and San Diego, but we'll see what they have to say real quick.
Is so beautiful, and if you are one of the many that's been waiting to see snow in feet instead of inches, guys, do we have the storm for you. Now, we're saying that this may wind up being a Goldilocks storm, or the Goldilocks of storm, however you want to say it. Not too warm and wet, such as what we've dealt with the classic atmospheric river events that triggered widespread flooding. So we've actually got a low flood threat, but also not too cold and dry to produce minimal snow. So this actually could be just right, as you remember in the fairy tale, to put a sizable dent in the state's drought concerns. So we've got these low snow levels, and we're also dealing with plenty of moisture. So we really are anticipating to see the snow get packed in. We're also anticipating to see quite a bit of rainfall, and why this matters is, again, we're talking about slow and steady, could put a dent in the drought, and we all know that the Sierra snowpack is really crucial. Now, it's definitely good for the drought concerns, but also keep in mind travel is going to get dangerous with the strong winds. So get ready to pay attention to travel advisories across the Sierra especially. And if you haven't checked your winter weather kit, now's the time.
Well, it definitely looks like they're going to have an experience there out on the West Coast.
No te pierdas este evento.
No doubt about that. Real quick, folks, while I have your attention, we're going to jump over to some space weather. I'm going to show you what I was talking about with the what's happening on the sun right now We're going to take a look at the SDO. We'll take a quick look at the 48-hour loop. And as you can see, these coronal holes, they're opening and closing as they're facing Earth. And these aren't, very, very large coronal holes that you see here on the bottom and up here on the top. But Earth is positioned about right where my cursor is. Anytime you see these openings in the sun's atmosphere, all of the black, dark areas, and you could see how it's faint compared to the rest of the sun's corona. Trust me when I say solar streams are coming from these areas. These coronal holes don't have to be massive in order for them to affect our planet. And we're not getting a break. It continues day after day after day after day after day. We did have a little bit of a break back at the end of January and the beginning of February, but, that has come to pass, and this is what we're faced with now. We've had some pretty big earthquake outbreaks over the past 72 hours also. Down there in Papua New Guinea, they're getting hammered with a 7.5, multiple 6s, high 5s, all clustered in one centralized area. Folks, and they don't have the best infrastructure, their roads, bridges, houses, things of that nature. Very volatile situation. And then I think it was about 12 or 16 hours later in the South Pacific in the Fiji Islands, once again, they had a moderate magnitude 5, but it was really deep, like over 250 kilometers, I think. And every time we see those deep earthquakes occur out there in the South Pacific around Fiji, that resonates all the way across the Pacific, and it ends up impacting the west coast of South America. And we see those earthquakes happening around Chile, around their coastal area. So there is a lot to watch. I'm going to go ahead and zip off of the SDO, and I'll show you the coronal mass ejection that occurred. Wasn't too much talk about it, but it definitely happened. It wasn't Earth facing. But we'll check it out. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit. You'll see some strange things. I'll point a few things out to you, and if you watched our live stream from the other day, we were questioning something that we were seeing in this Core 2 coronagraph image. I'll wait till it gets to that point. It was this object right here. And then you could see as it gets closer to the sun reacts with a coronal mass ejection. It's very, very hard to see, very faint probably on your screen. But this is the same thing that me and Dr. Albers were discussing on our live stream the other day. And it had been labeled Mercury. Some of the troll babies said that it was Mars. I don't even know where they're getting that. But again, still haven't been able to identify it other than whatever it is definitely created a reaction with the sun. And the sun's way of reacting is that coronal mass ejection that you just saw. And it wasn't that big, kind of moderate. we may see a little bit of aftermath from that. You know what? I'm going to jump over here to BP Earthwatch for a second. And I'm going to borrow his CME tracker. See if they have this updated. Yeah. Yeah, see, this is what I mean, folks. You know, normally and always in the past, models like this, the coronal mass ejection, CME tracker, this CME tracker is constantly updated, and as you can see, it falls off the chart on the 20th. Okay, we are what, on the 27th or 26th or something like that? I don't even know the date. But why aren't they updating this? Because at this point in time, it's critical to know where that CME is directed. Here's Earth right here, the little yellow dot. This was a coronal mass ejection that occurred in the beginning of February, or excuse me, the middle of February. This was the one that the Earth took a direct impact. Right, I think it was right on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Well, we had a coronal mass ejection 36 hours ago. Where the hell is the updated data? This automatically updates. But as of recently, nothing is updating on a timely fashion. Let's just say that. If you go to, you know, anything other than the Stereo Core 2 and SDO, everything else is way, way behind. Many, many days behind. If you come over here to SOHO, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, this has been down since January 25th. We can't see anything on here. You have to go, you know, through some other website as they process the images. But as for actual access to SOHO, it's been a month. No data. Nothing. Makes you wonder. You know, there's so much going on. And having that coronagraph, the C2 and C3, you know, to obtain information, and you lost one of your tools. It's gone. But it is what it is. You know, we will continue maintaining our watch on everything that is going on.